Tofu-Dreg buildings exposed. China's homes collapse one by one after floods. When the storm came, it didn't just flood streets, it exposed the rotten bones of a lie. Skyscrapers twisted like paper. Cracks split walls wide open. Entire buildings slumped, as if exhausted by years of pretending to be strong. City by city, province by province, the mask came off. Beneath China's glittering skyline lurked a foundation of fraud, built with fake steel, sand-stuffed concrete, and greed. For over a decade, China's real estate boom was praised as a miracle of modernization. Skyscrapers mushroomed overnight. GDP surged. New cities rose from farmland in a blink. But what looked like progress was often just propaganda. Beneath the glossy exterior was a ruthless system driven by shortcuts, bribes, and backroom deals. Officials hungry for promotions colluded with developers obsessed with speed and profit. Safety codes were ignored. Inspections were faked. Corners were slashed with the precision of a knife. The result? A silent epidemic of what are now known as tofu-dreg buildings, so fragile they collapse like soggy bean curd under pressure. These weren't isolated failures. They were warnings, ignored. In third-tier towns and megacities alike, families moved into apartments that began falling apart from day one. Cracking walls, sagging ceilings, shaking balconies. Complaints were buried. Whistleblowers silenced. The machine kept rolling and people kept paying. Then came 2020 and nature refused to stay silent. This year's floods didn't destroy, they revealed. Buildings didn't fall because of the rain. They fell because they were never meant to last. Because for years, China wasn't just building cities. It was building a fiction. And now that fiction is collapsing. What was once dismissed as bad luck is now undeniable, a nationwide disaster, engineered by decades of corruption and covered up by ambition. The storm didn't just drown homes, it drowned the myth of invincibility. China isn't facing a natural disaster. It's facing a reckoning. Brick by brick, the truth is crashing down. From raindrops to ruins, China's crumbling dream. It began with rain, but what's collapsing now is far more than buildings. It's trust. It's lives. It's an entire system built on lies and shortcuts, now coming undone. Brick by corrupt brick. July 2025. Relentless downpours pound southern and central China. But while the skies opened up, it wasn't nature alone that unleashed disaster. What's flooding the streets now is the truth. A truth long buried beneath layers of propaganda, concrete, and corruption. In Jiangxia, 5 days of nonstop rain cracked open the facade, literally. A 12-story apartment building split in two, one half crumpled like a sheet of paper. Debris rained down, homes vanished, and yet residents were told to be grateful, because no one died. In Hunan, tragedy nearly struck in a classroom. An elementary school roof, barely 8 years old, collapsed as students sat beneath it. Parents had warned for years about mold, leaks, rusting walls. Officials are now admitting what everyone suspected. The foundation was a fraud. In Sichuan, buildings are sweating from within, moisture seeping through walls, tiles cracking and falling, balconies bending like twigs. Engineers are declaring entire blocks uninhabitable. The list of condemned buildings is growing by the day. Social media is erupting. Videos show floors shifting beneath people's feet, stairwells warping, ceilings groaning. TikTok and Weibo are flooded with desperate voices. Sensors are scrambling, deleting faster than ever, but they can't erase fear. In Guangdong, one man chained himself to his collapsing home, shouting to the sky, "I spent 20 years earning this house. Now you tell me to leave? Where should I go?" And in poorer towns, no headlines, no inspections, just silence. Officials downplay the chaos as isolated incidents. But everyone knows it's not isolated. It's systemic. State media stays quiet, but panic is bubbling beneath the surface. A leaked internal report from Guangxi warns, over 2,000 buildings constructed between 2011 and 2019 are at high risk of collapse after heavy rain. And that's just one city. Multiply that across the nation, and the scale becomes unimaginable. This isn't just a construction crisis. It's the collapse of a national illusion. For years, families poured their life savings into these homes, told they were investing in the Chinese dream. Instead, they bought death traps. These aren't natural disasters. They're man-made. The rain simply revealed the rot. This isn't about weather, it's about betrayal. Because when walls crack and roofs fall, the damage isn't just physical, it's emotional, it's generational, and it's far from over. Why China's buildings are collapsing. The three rotten pillars behind a national nightmare. Towers are splitting, schools are caving in, families are fleeing their homes in terror. This isn't just a weather crisis, it's the unmasking of a lie, built brick by brick over years. Behind the crumbling walls lie three explosive truths the government doesn't want you to hear. 1. Speed over safety. China's construction boom was a death race. For 2 decades, China treated real estate like a sprint. Build fast, build tall, build cheap. Cities were judged by their skylines, not by the safety of their foundations. Local officials, chasing GDP targets and political promotions, greenlit massive projects overnight. Developers cut corners to stay ahead of deadlines. Cement was watered down. Steel was swapped for scrap. Waterproofing? Optional. From a distance, these cities looked like the future. Up close, they were falling apart before they were even finished. Now, under 2025's brutal monsoon season, these ticking time bombs are going off, one building at a time. 2. The Tofu-Dreg epidemic. Corruption poured into every foundation. Tofu-Dreg construction, once a meme, now a national curse. Behind nearly every collapse is a chain of corruption. Bribes disguised as business deals, contracts handed to cronies, subcontractors of subcontractors gutting quality to maximize margins. The result? Schools that can't survive a rainstorm, hospitals with collapsing ceilings, apartment blocks held together by hope. When disaster strikes, responsibility vanishes. No one's prosecuted, no one's accountable, and the victims? They're stuck paying mortgages on ruins. 3. Truth is outlawed. Censorship is killing accountability. In any functioning country, tragedy leads to inquiry. In China, it leads to cover-ups. When a high-rise partially collapsed in Xi'an, the first reaction wasn't rescue, it was censorship. News crews were blocked. Footage was erased. The narrative was rewritten. Just blame the rain. Inspectors who sound alarms are silenced. Whistleblowers disappear. State media stays mute. The message is clear. Don't ask questions. Don't tell the truth. Just move along. What remains? Ruins, rage, and a broken dream. In Jiangxia, Xi'an, and parts of Sichuan, families are now sleeping in tents, afraid their homes will fall on them. Old couples refuse to step inside their buildings. Parents won't let their kids near the windows. Balconies sway in the wind. Walls ooze water. Ceilings creak and threaten to cave in. Even worse, mortgages don't stop. Families are trapped, still paying for homes they're too afraid to enter. There's no aid, no accountability, just fear. On the outskirts of cities, makeshift camps are growing. But this isn't the aftermath of a natural disaster. This is the fallout of man-made greed, silenced truth, and a government that built prosperity on a foundation of lies. The real collapse has only just begun. This isn't just about concrete and steel. It's about a system that sacrificed safety for spectacle. Now, the very buildings that were meant to symbolize China's rise are becoming tombstones for a broken dream. The storm didn't destroy these homes, corruption did. The collapse you cannot see, China's silent psychological crisis. Buildings are falling, streets are flooded, sirens echo through the night. But behind all the visible case, a quieter collapse is unfolding, one that doesn't make headlines. While concrete structures crumble in the open, trust, hope, and psychological stability are disintegrating in silence. In evacuation centers and cracked apartments, the damage goes far beyond broken bricks. Children wake screaming from nightmares. Parents speak of a fear that clings even after the rain stops. Psychologists report a sharp rise in anxiety, depression, and PTSD-like symptoms. But this isn't just trauma, it's the feeling of betrayal. Mental health workers and underground aid groups say the same thing. People no longer fear nature. They fear the system that failed to protect them. Yet officials deny it. Media ignores it, and silence spreads like mold in soaked walls. That silence doesn't just erase suffering, it isolates it. For decades, China upheld an unspoken deal: obey and be safe, stay silent and be protected. But now that homes are collapsing, bank accounts are freezing, and disasters go unacknowledged, that promise is cracking, just like the buildings. Online, the emotional rupture is plain to see. Even our homes are fake, one user wrote. If the buildings are hollow, maybe the whole system is. Another said, I don't trust anything anymore, not even the ground beneath me. Even the loyal are growing cynical. In disaster zones, the sense of community is eroding. People stop organizing, stop reporting cracks, stop looking out for each other, because they no longer believe anyone will listen or help. What replaces solidarity is survivalism, suspicion, isolation. And when people stop asking for help, future disasters won't just be worse. They'll arrive unnoticed until it's far too late. The shattered windows and fallen ceilings are only the surface. Beneath them lies something more dangerous: the slow collapse of belief. Belief in safety, belief in justice, belief in the future. China may still be building upward, but inward, everything is falling apart.
The tofu paste project in China has long faded from public view, until now. A shocking disaster has brought it roaring back. On November 11th, the Hongqi Bridge in Erkang, Sichuan's Aba prefecture, suddenly collapsed after only 10 months, right after officials proudly planted the river dragon. The entire structure was swallowed by the Great Duhui River, unleashing a massive flood. This was supposed to be a flagship bridge in the clouds, a symbol of progress racing across China's northwest. Instead, it turned into rubble in an instant. Officials rushed to label it merely a mountain slide, claiming a cracked slope caused the collapse. But experts soon exposed the truth. The bridge sat in a high-risk zone where such a slide was not an accident. It was the predictable result of a disastrous decision. Dr. Zhu, chief of the American Institute of Structural and Structural Engineering, told the media, "This is not an engineering failure, it's a political failure." He explained that the bridge was built on a tiny mountaintop acting as the collision point of two slopes, with a terrifying 45 to 60-degree incline. Even worse, the structure was anchored directly onto this unstable ridge. Real mountain slope monitoring is expensive and highly specialized, Dr. Zhu said. It requires drilling, sampling, and scientific analysis. But in China's engineering system, expert opinion is too often replaced by political orders. In proper engineering, a bridge near such terrain would be placed low and flat to reduce structural stress. But the Hongqi Bridge was glued onto a mountaintop, impossible to anchor deeply, leaving its core dangerously fragile, like a reckless move in a losing chess game. After the collapse, public anger exploded over who inspected, who monitored, and who approved the project. Dr. Zhu noted that the entire engineering chain may have been corrupted. Testing agencies led by unqualified relatives, construction teams cutting corners to save money, and inspectors pressured to sign off for political gain. Engineers, he said, often have no voice, and systemic corruption kills good design before it is ever built. This is not just about Hongqi Bridge. It reflects the deeper structural failures behind China's massive infrastructure push, failures similar to those seen in the Three Gorges region. After the collapse, hundreds of workers were stranded at the site, their pay withheld, traffic shut down, the project frozen. They became victims of the system, yet their suffering remains invisible to authorities. On August 22nd, another deadly incident struck. A special bridge on the Sichuan-Qinghai Railway near Jianja on the Yellow River broke apart at a short-span section, killing at least 12 and leaving 4 missing. This bridge, touted as the world's largest double-line cross-border railway bridge, had been under construction for days when a critical component failed and brought the entire structure down. That night, the workers were adjusting a lock system for the next stage of construction. Without warning, the lock snapped, the bridge structure collapsed, and all 16 staff members plummeted from the span. According to the witness, the incident happened in a split second, a violent shock, like an earthquake. Residents nearby said the bridge stood only about 90 meters from the river, Yet the right side cable suddenly snapped, sending the massive green steel structure crashing down. Experts say two causes are most likely: a defective cable, or construction errors and reckless operation. What stunned people most was that safety nets and harnesses, the usual life-saving protections, became useless the moment the entire bridge gave way. China's megaprojects are often shadowed by corruption. Design blueprints may look compliant, but monitoring is weak, construction is sloppy, and layers of profit-sharing turn safety into an afterthought. The timing was even more alarming. At 3 a.m., workers were still forced into high-intensity night shifts. Construction teams raced nonstop to catch the dragon before the end of August. Overnight work became routine. Netizens asked, why the rush? Why must everything be finished before August? Isn't safety supposed to come first? Critics argue that when political labels like world's largest cross-border project or first double-line Yellow River crossing take center stage, safety becomes nothing more than a slogan. And China's Tofu-Dreg projects aren't just domestic. They've faced global backlash. Ecuador once demanded compensation from Beijing for severe quality issues at the Coca-Cola-Sinclair hydropower station, forcing Chinese state-owned firms to pay $400 million. The Coca-Cola-Sinclair plant, built in 2009 at a cost of nearly $3 billion, was heavily promoted by former President Rafael Correa and constructed by Chinese state-owned companies. Since operations began in 2016, the station has been plagued by crisis after crisis: unstable power output, shoddy construction, and mounting debts. Investigations revealed structural defects and thousands of cracks in key machinery. Even after repairs, some equipment still leaked. By 2021, Ecuador had submitted a staggering $5.8 billion restoration plan. In 2024, Chinese companies rejected Ecuador's claims, accusing them of contract violations. Now, the compensation agreement is at the heart of the long-running dispute. Beyond engineering flaws, experts warn the station threatens the Amazon ecosystem. Designed for a 50-year lifespan, it may function for barely 15. This threatens Ecuador's national energy grid and risks irreversible damage to the Amazon. Analysts say China's state-owned firms win overseas bids simply because their prices are extremely low, even cheaper than domestic projects. But this low price almost guarantees quality problems. Chinese writer Sheng Shui said Ecuador recovering $400 million signals the beginning of Beijing's crisis. Many nations already know Chinese-backed projects are riddled with corruption and Tofu-Dreg construction, but few dared act. Now that Ecuador has set a precedent, more countries may follow. He added that the Belt and Road Initiative has become a cash machine for corrupt political elites. When new governments come in, they often investigate past dealings with the CCP. Instead of gaining influence, China ends up paying for scandals and corruption, a financial and diplomatic disaster. Tofu-Dreg projects have also sparked outrage in Thailand. On March 28th, a magnitude 7.7 earthquake hit Myanmar. In Bangkok, Thailand's 30-story National Audit Office building collapsed, killing at least 95 workers, the only building in the entire country to fall during the quake. It was built by China's Metallurgical Group Corporation, MCC, and TCC, with MCC responsible for the construction. Even though it stood far from the city center, it still collapsed, proof of severe structural flaws. Investigators found the elevator shaft was misplaced toward the rear instead of the center, causing both the shaft and ground columns to collapse simultaneously. The entire building fell within moments. Concrete tests showed the material failed to meet minimum strength standards, and multiple discrepancies were discovered between the construction process and the approved design. Police later confirmed that a professional engineer's signature had been forged. On August 7th, Thai prosecutors charged 23 individuals from Thai firms and Chinese SOEs, including architect Da Heng. Public anger exploded after the collapse, putting pressure on China to raise global construction standards. Another textbook example of Beijing's Tofu-Dreg construction soon followed. On November 1st, 2024, the roof of the Novi Sad railway station in northern Serbia collapsed, trapping at least 16 people. The station had only been completed that July, after 3 years of reconstruction. The project was built by China Railway Group, China Railway Construction Corporation, and China Communications Construction Company. The collapse triggered Serbia's largest anti-government protest in decades, and on August 1st this year, Serbian authorities arrested several individuals, including the former Minister of Construction. They accused Chinese firms of causing up to $1.56 billion in national losses through tax-related fraud, with illegal profits estimated at $18.8 million. Tofu-Dreg construction is even more rampant inside China. One homeowner tore open his brand-new walls, and what he found shocked millions. The blogger said he bought his home at Huaxi Country Garden in June 2018. After a year of renovations and air-out time, he moved in with his children in September 2019. But soon after, he discovered the walls were drenched. Leaks were everywhere. The next day, he touched the walls. They were soaked through. He contacted property management, who then contacted the developer. The developer promised to redo the rooftop waterproofing, but the work stopped halfway, reportedly due to lack of funds. Soon, water leakage spread across the entire Huaxi Country Garden community. Dozens of households faced the same nightmare. Nowadays, shoddy tofu buildings have spread across China, leaving a trail of structural failures, collapsing floors, and hidden dangers that continue to surface year after year. These poorly built projects have caused enormous property losses, deadly accidents, and long-term safety risks that families are forced to live with. Each incident exposes deeper problems in construction oversight, corruption, and cost-cutting practices that prioritize speed over safety. As more buildings crack, tilt, or collapse, the financial and emotional toll on ordinary citizens grows heavier. Home buyers who spent their life savings on an apartment now find themselves living in fear of the next disaster. Even government assurances can no longer calm the public as confidence in the housing market rapidly erodes. Across the country, people are left wondering whom they can trust, and whether any home in China is truly safe anymore.